Stoner Podcast, Episode 8.
Back, bitches. I'm back with Jack and my father, John. Sorry for the to be continued, and I thought that was funny. So we're going to continue right where we left off with the demonology conversation. We were at the 4 places they taught you in your course.
Yeah, the curriculum, and it was a head scratcher for me, advised the things that they'd heard feedback on most commonly were a demon had, where it physically entered the body, was the left side, the back of the neck, the spine, or through having sex.
So he asked me this the other day, if I knew the 4 in the curriculum places or whatever. And my first answer was the ass. That's how they enter. They enter right through the ass.
But you're thinking of sex in a prison environment.
Jackie gets I guess you a little prison-y, don't you?
Yeah.
Come at me right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you are a demon.
That's something my dad really wants to hear.
Well, hopefully my mom is watching too.
Uh-oh.
Shout out. Hi, Mom. Remember this?
She says no. This is justifying everything that happened.
So in case you are tuning in right now, we've changed clothes because it's like 4 days after the last one we just
I'm
did.
still wearing the same shirt.
Are you? Well, continuity wrong for us. Cheers, Jackie. We didn't give a fuck. This is a totally different day.
Wait,
So-
I was coming around to you. Dang.
Oh, you know what? And I guess. Oh. We, you okay? This is your first drink of real. I remember when I had my first beer, Dad.
Oh, shit.
It was-
I forgot.
should we?
Yeah.
Should we?
I thought I was drinking like Coke. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Not a sponsor, right?
He made himself Coke. We don't ever do Coke around here.
Good.
We do Diet Coke, like a soccer mom heading to football practice.
Coke Light.
Coke, aspartame. Nothing like aspartame in the morning. So what we did last time is we kind of bounced all over the place. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last episode, watch the first half of this, Demonology Part 1, and this is Demonology Part 2. So I want this time, I feel like we just rambled on forever.
We did. We had a good time, but,
I don't think we said anything though, really.
we didn't.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't edited it yet.
I don't remember anything we said.
I don't remember 2 seconds ago.
You said you'd had too much fajita.
Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, my God.
Traxon.
Well, you know me, Dad. You taught me how to love that fajita. And fajita? Is that fajita, Jackie?
I don't know.
Is it fajita? The best peppers, the most bigly peppers with steak and vagina.
I really hate your face.
God, here we
When you do that, it is.
She likes it when we're entering the demon part 4 to your curriculum through the sex. Jackie, I know the biggest people, the best people. She has the best sex. Don't worry about it at all. She's a demon in my bed. She's a demon in my heart. You're the best demon. Out of all the demons in hell, trust me, I know a bunch. I've met a bunch. You're the best one. Hands down. Vagina. So
and cut.
we're done? Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck this.
One way that a demon could enter through your side would be in sleep paralysis, where you're being held down. And this has been eyewitnesses' account of folks that had to seek help later, of a spiritual help later. One fellow in particular, I heard his story about he was just recovering from appendix, which this blows the entering the left side.
Appendicitis?
Yeah. And he woke up and it was really dark and he felt like he was being held down. He felt pressure on him, which is common with reports of sleep paralysis. And he looked and he had a dark figure. He described it looking like a gargoyle sitting on his solar plexus region, and it morphed into him and he couldn't move. It was painful and he just felt him enter it. And he just felt really strange. That was one account.
So the left side, what's that about?
That's just what they said in the curriculum. And it was a head scratcher for me. They didn't elaborate. I think they let you fill in the blanks where if you interview somebody, they were like, I felt it go in me. So it was just something statistically that they threw at you.
When you told me that, I was like, what?
I knew I told you that specifically because you'd be disgusted. I told you that specifically because you would take it the way that I took it, that said, well, this kind of attacks the authenticity of your curriculum.
Well, and when I even asked you, I was like, so how authentic is your curriculum? If they're like, well, there's 4, because I'm, and this is the skeptic in me, I am so hell-bent on if you're an expert of any of this stuff, you're full of shit.
Yeah,
Now,
the
you,
E word.
You
no
could be
good.
experienced as fuck, but an expert on the afterlife? And I was like, man, the left side. I'm like, well, don't you think demons are hanging out going, hey, they said the left side. Everyone, move from right to left instead of left to right from now on. And we're getting by all of these fucking guys in the test.
When you go in to do an investigation, you just brought up moving the left to right. That was in their curriculum. That was in the same area. It was just a blanket statement, which I don't like broad brush statements. They did a broad brush. This is the way it's been most commonly reported.
Sorry.
Entering in these 4 manners, and the movement of the demon is left to right. But what happens when you go in to interview somebody, they said, yeah, it was walking right in front of me. Well, what was? Well, the poltergeist or the little girl or the angel, and you don't really know what it is right then. Well, how was it moving? Was it like, and they go, well, it was going from there to there. So it was going left to right. It helps you. It's just a piece of your investigation that says, where have I heard that before? Because when you go into an investigation, let's say it could be a poltergeist. It could be a intelligent spirit. One more.
Yeah.
Could be a demon. Well, how was it moving? You just are looking for any clue to get you started to go, okay, every time they see this poltergeist, it moves from left to right.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But what they found was people reporting where they had a demonic attachment, demonic possession, which is rare, left to right.
Can you describe what's the difference between a ghost, a spirit, residual spirit, demon, like you know what I mean?
Poltergeists usually start suddenly. They're playful, and they can end just like that, their activity. But they can move things, they can giggle, they can annoy, they can knock. They can also be ornery. They can be mischievous, and then they can start getting angry, like a little tantrum. We leave a stamp on this world, and that goes into the stone tapings that we talked about, where it's like a recording, and you can capture an apparition, or you can get a pretty good sighting of a person repetitively doing the same thing about the same time every day, consistently. That's what I would call a ghost, a residual energy.
So you're saying, so like if there was a spirit like in the house and you, like one of the people that we've talked about in the previous podcast, like one of the entities we've seen, and we said something and they looked and acknowledged us, or?
That's an intelligent haunting. That's a spirit.
Okay.
And the cool part about that, you can interact with them, and you can pacify them. You can make an agreement with them. They'll comprehend what you're doing. A ghost will you'll just keep seeing the same activity.
We watched a movie last night at our house over here, and I believe we have one of those here at the house. Black shadow figure runs from left to right, ironically, right? It just hit me.
Yeah.
It just hit me, but it was just over and over again. And I always see
I
it.
saw it twice.
I always see it when I'm in a theater. And then so last night I was like, switch spots with me. See if you see it too. And then we're like, there it was. He goes, we were seeing it at the same time. So to me, that point of motion that we saw at the same time, you seeing the same thing I did without me and you saying anything to each
Right.
other. And then Do you see it? Yeah, I genuinely saw it when he saw it.
Yeah.
But we've, as I've talked about in older podcasts when I was a kid, we've always seen the same shit. So maybe we're just both equally crazy.
Or maybe it was Nora fucking with you guys.
It wasn't. No, it was.
No.
It's about an adult-sized.
I came down there.
It wasn't solid. It was dark, but it wasn't solid. What I saw was like smoke, like a smoke tinted glass table or a smoke tinted mirror of a car. Where it created a shadow, like the door is illuminated by lights behind it.
Yeah.
And
I see it there so much, and then I've had friends over here watching movies in the theater, and they have also seen it. Nate has seen it.
if you were alone, you'd think you had a prowler in the house.
I did actually. I was watching the Elvis movie. Jackie was asleep upstairs, and I was watching. The kids were in school, I believe, and I was just hanging out. And I saw what I normally see, but this time it was sharper. And I actually like, what the fuck? And I got up and ran out, thinking someone was in the house. And where that was, there's nowhere for that person to have gone.
Yep. Demons can often appear to be a poltergeist or a spirit, and that's why you do your investigation. You try to pare down, and you use skepticism, you use some scientific tools, and you use your experience, you use your gut, use interaction with it. Because if you go to somebody's house and they're experiencing a phenomena like this, well, you're just not going to live in their house. And then you can go, well, I'll be there between 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, the high noon in the demon world, and then there's nothing. Well, demons can hide, and the spirit might not want to mess with your ass. A demon is a negative energy. You can think of it as a negative entity. It's never been alive. It's never walked this earth, but it wants our power, our lives, so it can see through our eyes and hear through our ears, and it'll basically just suck the joy out of your life. And its ultimate purpose is to do that so it can live. It needs to feed, and it feeds off of your negative energy. It is negative energy. And it can grow exponentially. And it doesn't have to get invited into your life like you played with the tarot cards and you played with the Ouija boards and
Fucking witches.
and all that. And I'm not saying you can't get some bad mojo doing that either. I'm just saying there's other ways you can do it. You can move into a house that has a demon that's been dormant, or has a poltergeist, or there's a spirit there, and they can come and go. The demon's not going to want to go. If it's a demon, it's going to grow, and it'll try to lie to you. And a really good way it lies to you is you'll often have a poltergeist that's a child, or appears as an angel. Who doesn't love an angel? And so you're taken off guard where you're like, yeah, we have a poltergeist as a child, or I see this angel. Like, for example, the house that I live in, we don't know, it's a female, we don't know what to call her. She's very comforting. And she comes in and actually physically will touch you during the night. She'll brush your leg, she'll pull up your cover. She like tucks you in like a nursemaid. And by the way, haven't experienced her in a long time. Probably too much sage going on in there. But it wasn't a bad thing. It's never grown. It's never been negative. It's, I don't know what other folks would say. Oh, if you got that, you got a demon. No, I would argue, no, we don't. It's not negative. And
Well, in your house too, for the people at home watching or listening to the podcast,
1867.
And it's a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in the Ozarks. I'll just leave it broad like that. It's a really rad old farmhouse. And we have experienced things
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we've stayed in your room, when we've visited.
Yep.
We both have woken up in the night over the years of staying out there and have experienced, I've never seen her or seen anything in there, but I've definitely woken up to someone rubbing my leg.
Yeah.
And I thought it was my wife, and nope, don't touch me.
Right.
So hats off to that, young lady.
I warned my wife when we moved in there. I said, now, this might happen because this happens. And she looked at me like, She often, and this has been earned, has to look at me with a kind, sad face. Okay.
She hanging out with Jackie? Bonnie, you hanging out with Jackie? You know, so
then
you're talking about not
she
having...
started experiencing it.
Oh, she did?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it touching the leg and pulling up the covers and standing over her. And
So you don't have a name for this gal, right?
No.
So with all due respect, and I mean that, I'm not trying to be Ricky Bobby right now. With all due respect, I have a name for her. The Fluffer.
Oh my God.
I don't think, no, it's never gone that far. It always stopped with the...
That's all I need, baby. That's all I need for that vagina.
Vegeta.
I asked Father John here to make a list of things, given that once we got done doing the podcast 2 times in a row for the last one, how many things were like, what did we even say? What did we not say? Did we say anything at all? I definitely, know that we said a lot, but specifically if we repeat a few things, it's because we have not watched back what we did last time a couple days ago. So I asked you to kind of make a list, and I got the ramblings of a madman, which I don't know why I would. And I kept asking him too, did you make a list? Well, you can't just make, I'm like, just answer the question.
I meditated and just let my hand write, and that's what showed up.
So I like a couple of these. I'm just going to, I'm going to use your list and just kind of pick on a couple of things,
Okay.
because I like that. But one thing I want to bring up on this show of ours here is you're not an exorcist.
No.
You're an
Demonol-
investigator.
Yep.
You're a demonologist for sure.
Yep.
But you're more of an investigator.
Yes.
You used to do investigations.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the things that you've made clear to me that I just want to make sure we're conveying properly, some of the things in the curriculum when you did your demonologist research, or when you were being tested, or your training, if you will, on that I go, I don't know about that one, Dad.
Right.
It makes sense to me when you, on your own, describe it to me how it is being an officer and being an actual investigator or a detective. When you put it in the nerdy Batman terms to me,
Yeah.
it makes sense. And
Yeah.
then I understand why. Well, so demons will move left to right. And I'm like, boop, meh. But I mean, so I'm gonna spill a couple things for you today. You've talked about investigations where you walked in the room and you had, a case file that was only this big. So you put a big stack of papers underneath it and then put the case file on top and goes, I know every single thing you've done. Look, I can throw the book literally at you, right? And then they spill the beans or so.
Yep.
So that kind of lie, that kind of deceive was, and then they confess everything, right?
Yep.
Just a little ruse. Is that what it's called?
It's a ruse.
So I wanted to touch on that to make sure we're conveying properly, because a lot of this is the opinion of himself as a demonologist, but not as that, as everything we covered last time of who you are that's made you the man that you are today.
And from his experiences too.
Yes. So I like the fact that when you come at it, you're not coming at it from a Catholicism exorcist, the power of Christ compel, you're coming at it as like, hold on here, not everything's a demon. So a couple of things I just want to read through that I've already kind of like peeked at a little bit before we started. I like this one on the top. What objects protect you from a demon, and can you trap them?
Well, I use objects to protect myself before even going into a situation. I meditate, and like you talked about, with being filled with the light. That's before I even walk into the location. And I need to be confident, not vulnerable, not weak. I need to be in a very positive mind frame and not lose that at any point at all. Because when I walk in, and I don't do it alone, by the way, no one interjects.
What do you mean you don't do it alone?
I never do any investigation alone.
Like you have another demonologist with you?
Well, I bring a handler for me. And then there's another reason, which I learned in law enforcement, is if the person becomes very receptive to the other person, I let them take over. Because they obviously are jiving chemically and they can communicate and stuff.
Well, you're not after being the show, you're after hurting people.
Yeah.
Right? Or help, I'm sorry, you're after hurting. Fucking A.
Helping?
I knew what you meant.
You're after helping people.
Yes. Yeah, because that is my objective is to see if I can help them and attempt to help them. And then I want to make this point real quick. If I attempt to help them and it doesn't work, no pressure, I can make it worse. I can make it a lot worse. And that's all part of your investigation before you even decide to help somebody. Because you can walk into a house and you got a bad man tormenting somebody, and you make that bad man leave, and he says, "I'll be back."
Mm-hmm.
When he comes back, he's going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And the person that is possessed, the person that's even has an attachment, has a vulnerability. That's why they're in that situation. It makes them get weak. The weaker they get, the stronger the dark energy gets. The stronger the dark energy gets, the weaker they get. It's a flip-flop. The weaker it's going to get for them, their will, their strength can really be diminished, and they can really be tormented. It just aggravates whatever symptoms that they're having. That's why you want to do all your homework ahead of time, to the best of your ability, and really believe in what you're doing and be positive. I carry a satchel with me, and it's got stones in it, peridot, ruby. I got alexandrite, cat's eye, chrysoberyl, black tourmaline, black obsidian. I have quartz. I had amethyst in there because I like it.
Sometimes online people are taking things quite literally.
Yeah, that's
So-
just
so-
what works for you.
Yeah, well, but not only that, we're going to get into that.
That's also in the Demonology certification course, and they were tested
What is?
what stones to carry
Oh.
on you.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
this is
Okay, then.
I love being educated. Fuck me.
Because usually they're like, this is for healing and this is
Well,
for
okay. So
love.
what I was
They
going
didn't do that.
Well, what I was going to get with that is that certain stones, as you're going through things. Now I'm going to eat crow now because
Well,
I thought intentions.
Yeah.
Also, for the benefit of the Christians, listen to this. If you read in the Old Testament, they'll tell you the same thing. Before the priest approached the altar, they had to wear the shroud with the following stones in the following order, and I just listed some of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I can get you that. I think Exodus also has a mention of that, but
Can you give me the list of those stones, and then what I'll do
yes.
is I'll put them in the description. I just know people that I know in our personal life are picking words you're saying
Good.
but I mean like quite literally. So I thought maybe,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
man, you don't have to maybe have all these stones, but fuck me, you do. It's in the description.
Well, they recommended it, and you also carry salt and iron. The reason behind that is iron binds. Salt, it's permanent. Salt's a permanent deal. It preserves permanently. Salt has protective qualities. And like the peridot and the alexandrite, that's purity. You're getting a really hard, pure stone. So if the darkness can't live in the light, it can't deal with something that's permanent. It's not going to be fickle. It's going to be permanent, hard, pure. It's, like your black tourmaline for negativity. And I've seen tourmaline work, by the way. I've seen tourmaline flip all by itself across the table. Remember the little Mexican jumping beans? They warm up in your hand. Way more than, kind of a version of that, because it was about the size of that. And it was flipping. And it flipped repeatedly across the table with witnesses who were freaking out.
I mean, as I would.
And I was freaking out, trying to get them not to freak out,
Yeah.
because whatever's going on, don't feed it, please.
which is a bad habit I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And then also silver.
so basically what you're saying is that Hollywood did get, as much as we shit on them even last podcast, Hollywood did get some things right with the salt.
They get-
and the
Yeah, they get pieces of that right. And
iron with gets away the ghost is the iron. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
yeah,
So-
perhaps. So and even the Bible gets it right. With the demonology, you do a cleansing bath. And in addition to using sage, it's a bath of hyssop, which I believe is in Psalms 51, the Old Testament, where purify yourself by using bathing with hyssop.
And you've done this before.
Yes.
And you can you talk about what's happened when you've done that?
It was amazing. What I did is I used holy water, which is not blessed by a priest. It was a version of witch water, which was basically icicles that come off the house, and it was collected from hail, during storms, from rain, condensation that built up into it. And I went out every day and breathed into that water, because water can be manipulated. And I breathed, you are for cleansing, you are to edify and to bless and to bring joy. Every single day, breathing in that, bathed it in the full moon, charged it in the sunlight. I put Himalayan salt in it. And then we have a lot of iron ore in our area. I got collected iron ore from the ground, made sure it was strong enough that a magnet would grab it, and crumbled that in there, and then sealed the lid. And then that's what I used with the hyssop in it. I said words over it. I heated it. I made a steep tea, and you bathe from head to toe, and it doesn't take much water. And you just, if you're in a negative situation, you do that. My wife had water coming off of her because she'd gotten wet. I had black stuff coming off like ink because of a situation I'd just been in. And I mean, it slewed it off of me, and I felt so much better. I just felt light. I just felt great.
Well, I think you guys sent me a picture of the tub when that happened too. I think Bonnie fired me a photo of the black water you left behind in the tub.
Did she?
I think so.
I'm curious because I'm dumb and
You're not dumb, honey.
no, like I like thinking like
Words
a
are
jar.
powerful.
I'm like, how can you bathe with just a jar of water? So do you like take a washcloth and use that,
I
or
used
just
a sponge.
oh, okay?
And you stand in the tub and you do visualization while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Clean me, bless me, edify me, clean me, purify me. And you start head to toe, and you only used out of a pint jar
Okay.
about this much, and then you air dry. You let it dry on you, and that's one technique, and that is recommended in demonology.
It's time for Jack's Facts.
Did you know that 90% of serial killers are white males? I mean, I don't really find that hard to believe, but 78% of female serial killers are American. And honestly, because we got to deal with those men in our lives, it's not that hard to believe either. Did you know that someone squished their hands in jelly to make the sound of E.T. walking? And that just really like grosses me out. So anytime I watch that movie from now on, it's going to be ruined. I'm just going to imagine someone mashed in jelly and that's just, it's gross. The best fact of all time. Mosquitoes are not found in Iceland. It's the only place, I believe, in the world that does not have mosquitoes. And so a PSA announcement from now on, A Stoner podcast will be filmed in Iceland because that's where I'm moving. I hate fucking mosquitoes. Burn them all.
You have on the list here, what can cause hauntings that are not hauntings?
And that is something I pay the most attention to early on. That's when you're a skeptic and you use the scientific tools you got. It's this simple. And I actually have a worksheet I come up with, so I can just ask them questions and just investigate the answers, confirm it. But do you have gas appliances in your house? Do you have any black mold in your house, or any kind of a mold like growing in a corner?
Black mold is huge.
Yeah.
Do you, have you like sprayed for bugs, had an exterminator, you live in an apartment, have they like used pesticides? Have you used any products that contain any formaldehyde? You just go down the list.
Did grandma come over? Did she smell like formaldehyde?
I was like,
That's why Granny's so well preserved.
What products would have that? Do you know?
Well,
A lot.
Really?
Amazon.
I guess a mortician would probably know better than us.
Yeah.
So
Morticia.
you work in the business. So the reason being is that can create pareidolia.
And what is that again? I know we covered that last one.
It's basically your mind tries to make sense out of chaos, and it rationalizes. That can give you the feeling of being touched. That can make you see things, hear things.
Here's an example of that. I'll put a couple up on the screen right now. This happens all the time in our personal investigations that Jackie and I do when we're trying to be a little young Ed and Lorraine over her. Is we'll take a picture and does that look like a face to you?
Oh my
But it's
God,
just
it is.
it's the wood grain, how the wood grain comes over, and it just
Yeah.
you can see things if you want to see things, and then everyone gets excited, and it is a demon in the window. It's probably just the trees reflecting back
Or
and
the pixelation.
and that's where you
of-
need to be,
yeah.
like we've talked about 1,000 times, and we'll beat it dead to the ground. You have to be a skeptic, and that's just dangerous. So that's another version of the same thing. There's the physical aspect of it, not just the visual.
Yeah.
Where you feel this way. Well, maybe there's a draft. You know what I mean? I hear these things. Well, maybe the house is settling over here, or there's pipes. This wall's warm.
Well, I
Well,
mean-
maybe you should know the ins and outs of your electrical work in your house.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting ready to burn the fuck down.
And it's telling you to get the fuck out.
How rare is a possession by a demon?
Oh, it's extremely rare.
The last podcast when I talked about how I couldn't find a clear number of how many people were victims of exorcisms gone wrong, Dad went digging and found a few.
I dug till I just quit digging. Several children have been killed in the U.S. We had one in Missouri a couple years ago during the course of an exorcism that was not administered correctly, ethically, legally, any other lead.
Well, you
could
even
think of.
said by the church they were holding the mother under duress, correct? Is
Yeah.
this the one you're talking about where she's
Yeah.
like, you're being too rough with the child? And
If she interfered at all, they made it clear they'd shoot her.
Dang.
I just wanted you to say it because I had your
I know.
reaction.
What the fuck?
I
Yeah.
can hardly read.
I'm
yeah.
over here. I think why are people even doing that to children?
They're the most vulnerable amongst us, and they're the most non-understandable to an adult mind
Yeah.
because they do have imaginary friends, and they oh my God, they got a demon.
Yeah.
And so the problem didn't start with the child. The problem the child is flawless, but the cause of death is not going to be listed killed by exorcism.
No, sure.
It's not going to be a
But-
stat. It's
but
going to
it
be child
fucking
abuse. And
should be. It fucking should be. It's a fucking pandemic with this. I mean, like
it's
the amount of
grown
kids.
since the outbreak.
Mhm.
It has grown exponentially.
Who is what is this preacher's name again?
It's Father Vince Lampert.
In Indianapolis, the one of the cases you have written here I found very interesting and incredibly heartbreaking. And you said this case is still continuing, correct?
I didn't see a disposition on it. I
So-
know they were looking for the mother.
Well, on Twitter, because one of the rare priest and exorcists that I've ever heard is on Twitter. That's wild. And you
He's
said he
all
has,
over YouTube.
he has a
too.
YouTube channel
Yep.
and everything too. So I'll definitely look into that, and I urge you to as well. That's Father Vince Lampert.
Yep.
He was contacted on Twitter from a mother regarding a demon in her child. Of course, on Twitter, if he gets 3,000 plus on average requests about doing exorcisms a month, a couple may fall through the cracks. So she tried, and then they found the child, 5-year-old baby boy, dead in the suitcase.
And
And
she
that-
was being sought.
Oh my God, I remember that.
He never got the request.
That's-
He never received it on Twitter. And
I remember reading that too because
suitcase,
you
yeah.
read all the time all these things, and when you said it, I wanted to wait. I wanted to talk about it because that story touched our personal lives.
Yeah.
I didn't say that earlier because
very tragic.
I wanted you to
I
have.
didn't click because he was telling me some stuff, and I got obviously really upset about all the kids, and I'm like, why are I don't? But it didn't register because it was just a lot of information. But
Well, and being in Indy,
Indy,
you this really, and I believe they found the child in California.
Yeah, California had a connection in it. I never read all the details on it.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure that case, I don't want to give out misinformation at all. So definitely do your own research with any of the things we're talking about on this, since we're going over that, but talking about all these cases. I mean, Texas 2-year-old died from being exorcised the pastors in prison. Africa, 5 tortured, 1 died during exorcism. Louisiana, the 2 sisters gouge out the eyes and another sister, right? And they found the demon that was chasing them, their eyes of their sister, in the trash at the church they ran to for sanctuary.
Correct.
What the fuck? I mean, it's wild. But the fact of the matter is that us 3, we know there's things in this world we don't understand clearly. There's tons of skeptics online going, well, this should have came out during Halloween because this is interesting. Hollywood podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
This
it's
is
like,
not a Halloween thing, though.
No, it's
This is
not.
a real thing.
the description that's always haunted me as a child, and it haunts me because you brought it up to me when I was a child, was how the Bible describes the world winging above our heads.
Father of the Year.
Well, because you know, like I've mentioned before. I mean, you're definitely a poet, and I think that's where I get a lot of my poetic brain from. And our fucking the analogies, by the way, this is where I get it from.
You know what that reminds me of?
Oh fuck! But like, you know, the winging above your head, it just makes me think of just creatures, you know, winging about. It just makes me sick because I'm looking at stories of demons killing babies.
Well,
You know what I mean? I'm looking at the mom who's
to drive
possessed.
out the demon.
Yeah.
Right.
They are the demon. You know, and it's disgusting. I don't know. It makes me sick. Like with you, Jackie, it's hard to even fathom the amount of poor innocent people or mentally ill people that are being abused by this. If
And
you're
also abusing the misunderstood mentally ill.
yes,
And they believe that, see, there is a major thread currently as we speak running. You can find this all over the internet where the cause of this demonic activity, it's the Satan scare I talked about. I don't know if it's in the episode that got erased.
I know it's so hard to know.
It is roaring back.
That was alive during the Satan scare. Just in case, let's go over it real quick.
The Satan scare.
What was that?
That was the period. For me, it started in the 70s when I went to a private Christian school and I was forced to listen to the devil and the rock and roll, and I was tested on it. That was elective that I was required to take, and how the devil uses this and that, uses music. So I listened to all my favorite music and actually enjoyed the tape for that reason. But they saw the devil everywhere. Several books were written, like The Satan Cellar, and a lot of these guys have been disproven that they'd inflamed it. But the truth is, there's a lot of money to be made. And like I commented to you the other day, I could make a lot of money taking way more information than we're going to give out.
Especially in an hour.
Yeah, because there's just not enough time. And I could write a book. I could go on tour. I could repent. And
I think you fucking should. And I don't think you should just do it for money.
I could just, but I'm seeing the guys who are doing it, and I'm not going to call them out by name. They are famous, they are rich, and they are living like kings right now.
Are they giving out proper information?
Pieces of it, and that's something I want to tell you about. A lot of those guys, they have the truth. They have a shred of the truth, and that's what's drawing people in. And then everything spins completely out of control. So, well, they're telling the truth about this. They're telling the truth, and then they start going on. And I've heard some more most atrocious things. We mentioned your local Father Lampert here. He's a legitimate believer. He's legitimately helped people. I'm not a Catholic. He is, and he is unashamed of that, and he does his job. He has helped tons of people. I'm not talking about guys like him. I'm talking about guys that are on tour that talk about what a great witch they were. They were a great witch. And
Which is what I think it may be the last podcast. Because I remember saying,
and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of that, and we've mentioned the H word a few times, Hollywood. Hollywood does a real good visual portrayal of some things. Levitation's a real thing. They show that. I think it was in The Exorcist when she come out. That's a real thing. That can actually happen. They've showed the black eyes. I've actually seen that. And the foaming at the mouth, I've seen the drooling at the mouth. Not the foaming. I mean, just excessive drooling. And I've seen horns on somebody's head and their head became red and mottled. That's when I was 12. try explaining that to your father. All that in the church we were in, you know.
Well, I mean, I have you as a father, so I can think that'd be pretty easy.
Yeah. And,
I could
and
explain
come
it
to
to
find
you.
out years later, one other person in the church also peeked during prayer at the same person and described it to my sister. Said, "You're not going to believe this. They were a demon."
And this is the cult church, correct?
Yes. So in the vein of all this, when I approach someone to try to help them, this is all what I'm fighting through. I'm fighting through everything that Hollywood said, everything the church said, everything their preacher said, everything their mate said or their friends have said, everything all the TikTok witches have said. You're wading through all that. And part of what makes what I do really helps with the success is that they believe. I have to go with their faith system and have to build upon that. So when we talked about objects that I take, protective objects, I believe in those objects. I believe in their protectiveness. And I don't believe in it because I was told to in a certified demonologist course or because my friends who I love and trust have told me that. I believe in that because I believe in that. And I hang on to that. They'll hang on to their beliefs too. And then if they've lost all belief, you got to give them something to believe. And it better not be bull. And you got to give them something to cling to because they're having a hard time seeing the light. And at that point, they're already fighting themselves, seeing you as the light, and they want you gone. And so you got to fight through all that. And through belief comes positivity, which is anti their situation, and that's all helpful. If they don't believe in it, and I'm just imposing my beliefs, my opinion, I'm just imposing on everybody, and I'm opposed to doing that. Everything that I do needs to be consensual. There's no strapping down, no holding down, no tying down. I don't touch them. I don't make myself vulnerable to that.
Yeah.
I don't allow them to touch me. I'm there with them. And now, at the end of it, I will touch them on the forehead, the third eye, and I will draw the sign of a cross on their head. And it's just my final confirmation that they're good to go. One thing I want to throw in here, because I don't want this missed, is part of your investigation is they need to have a mental evaluation from a doctor, and they need to have a psychological evaluation. And that's after a phone interview where it's like, okay, I'll help you. Or maybe I'll have a quick meeting with them and it's like, okay, well, you need this and this before we can proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to get that stuff sorted out in a medical way, in a scientific way. And then part of the investigation is, and I actually typed up a worksheet so I could keep myself straight. I don't miss steps. It's written right in front of me, and I just follow the steps. Plus, part of those instructions I leave with them, homework that they can do on their own. So going through all that process, then I want to jump ahead and just find out, is it a demon? You know, without even completing the investigation, there's a shortcut, and I use a religious ruse. And what I do is I have them sit, and I just talk to them. Just sit right there in the chair. And then I say, okay, now if you're comfortable, I'm going to walk around. I'm just going to talk to you, and I'm just going to walk around you and walk around you. And I want you to give them the light visualization. You visualize this. You can close your eyes. If you're comfortable, you can leave your eyes open. And I just walk around him and just talk to him. And in my hand, I have a set of rosary beads that has a cross. The gal, it's one of my most prized possessions. The gal that had it, she's no longer alive, but she spent decades and decades holding those beads, crying over those beads, praying with those beads. She believed in those beads. I believed in her. I now have her beads, and I believe that they have that energy, that positivity, that realism to them. That's the ruse I like to use. And there's other ruses you can use too. And I have it in my hand. They've never seen it. It's been concealed as I walk. I pull it out, and I put it right, this is back to where's the 4 spots. I put it right at the nape of their neck. Everything stays calm, continue to walk around them, put it back in my pocket. They never see it. We're good to go. Now I need to dig a little further. Now I just need to work on giving them some tools, help them cleanse their space, their house, themselves, and let's keep things positive. If they do have an attachment, they do have a demon, they're going to come out of that chair because they're not going to see it. They don't have eyes in the back of their head.
Yeah.
It's going to see it. It's going to feel that energy, and it's okay. Now it's go time. Now you've got something. Now you've got, let me press upon you, that rare occasion where you got something that it's okay. This needs to really be dealt with, you know.
I was going to say, if it were a demon, wouldn't it not allow that person to do all those steps that you gave them, like the doctor evaluation, the mental evaluation?
Try to talk them out of it. And I think it would try to use the rationalization process of, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm putting words in their mouth. You know, every situation might be different
Okay.
because everybody's different. But
Yeah.
I can see that because a demon working on you, he gets inside your head.
Yeah.
And they can use telepathy. And they can, that's a power they'll hold over you. They know things, and they're not omnipresent, omnipotent. They're not everywhere at all times. And
Yeah,
stuff,
that's true.
you know. But they do have that extra knowledge to them. They
Yeah.
have that ancient knowledge that they'll use against you. And I think that would be a good time to use it. If someone was saying you need to go to the doctor, they'd be like, you don't need to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know. But either way, I'm not going to deal with them unless I can get some clearance before I go any further.
Yeah.
And especially in this days, and I really hate to sound like a fogey, of illicit drug use, and you know, and I do that on my worksheet. I want to know the history of their situation, what medications they're on, and then I want to research the medication for side effects. I'm on meds, and I didn't even know what some of the side effects were.
Yeah.
Till I looked them up. It's like, what are you giving me here? I don't want that. You know? And so you go with that program.
I think relics and important items like your rosary beads truly do find people at the right moments in their life. And how I know that is because those rosaries are so old and beaten down. Jesus is actually off of the cross. He's broken off.
Yeah, it does not have a Jesus.
And
on
how
it.
perfect is it for a demonologist that's not with the Catholic Church to use a Catholic relic? And I believe we talked about, and like I said, I strongly apologize if I am repeating myself, but the manifestation of the religious energy that has been created over thousands of years, why not tap into that weaponry? That's an
Absolutely.
arsenal so deep. I want to say thank you for being open about all this. There is so much more we could talk about.
Yeah.
But
It's, like this conversation could go on forever.
it could. And if you guys really, really want to see more of this, or like later on you discover this and I get more, we can dip into all the things we're going to watch back and be like, why did I mention this? I do not want to leave without talking about my favorite subject ever. And I actually talked about it during one of the earlier episodes and then edited it out because I wanted to wait for you because I got the knowledge from you. We talked about the difference between poltergeists, ghosts, spirits, demons, and so forth. Talk about recording. You said tape recordings, stone recordings, stone tape. There's for all you hardcore skeptics that don't believe in any of this bullshit.
By the way, you're going to stir some of them up if you got a skeptic watching, because that is very highly disputed right now.
What is?
Stone taping. To me, it's like, yeah, the math is there.
What is disputed about it?
It's like, that's crap.
Okay, well,
because it's a new idea. It's
here's
really not
here's
a new
how it's
idea.
not, yeah. Here's why it's not crap is because science fights you on that shit, and let me tell you why. That's the number one thing that I get hit with. Well, scientifically, for this spoon to fly over the wall, it needs to have wings, and I don't think that spoon drank Red Bull. And you'll know what I'm talking about when I release my footage. But what I'm saying is that every experience I've had people who are skeptics to the point where they're complete naysaying non-believers, and there's no way. Being skeptical is everything. Being skeptical to the point where you're blind is equally, too much of water can kill you. Too much of any idea is wrong. Science is on our side with these stone tapes, as you say, or stone recordings is how I always refer to
I
them.
believe so.
Well, there's a little thing called celluloid, and it's an element that is used in old film, really flammable old film. And if you watch Hollywood coming back up for the new rear, there's the Inglorious Bastards. There's that famous scene in the Nazis when they're all dying and Hitler gets blown to shit, and it's awesome. You ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh, well,
Oh my gosh.
add it to the fucking list, man. So the theater, spoiler alert, the theater lights up in flames pretty hardcore. And she's laughing on the screen. It's awesome. You see all the tape burning and stuff. It's extremely flammable. We don't use it in film, right? It's all digital most of the time, of course. It was also used in mortar mix.
Yeah, silica.
Is it celluloid or silica?
Well, celluloid's in there, but silica, this all started with the, oh my God, he's wearing a wire. The wire recordings.
Mm-hmm.
They discovered a material that they could put on wire and they could make a recording. That advanced to the cassette tapes.
Well, I thought that was celluloid. Is that silica? Am I saying this wrong?
Celluloid actually.
Maybe it's both. Maybe they both do the same thing.
It's another element of it, but it's the silica and then the nickel and all the other products they use to make a cassette. That can find its way into any old structure that has hand mixed mortar, river chat.
Yeah. Okay. I had to.
Plus, you have other ingredients in the house like old broken mirrors that actually had the silver on the back, and
Sure.
china. A lot of the old china had it.
Well, I mean, you are on the same page. I think
Right.
that, like, how do you not know that the wood that made your door frame was not used to hang somebody and they're attached to that tree?
Yeah.
That tree got chopped down and it's made your baby crib, and that's why your baby crib is. Who knows? Who knows how the world? But celluloid, I want to. I joshed you.
That was
since you're
an
not here, Josh.
attachment, by the way.
It is. It's also known as nitrocellulose.
Mm-hmm.
This element that was made, this plastic, if you will, that was made in this, was also made in mortar mix for years and years, hundreds of years, which holds stones that build castles. It's found in cobblestone streets, and all the. So I think that if the same elements that are used in film
to capture.
to capture and record our movies
Yep.
are the same elements that are building the stone walls of our area. Of course, all these old buildings are haunted as fuck. The foundation of your home has literally the element to record. And so it's like, well, stone tapings, you're going to neglect that? When, what? And there's been tons of cases out there that have been documented, like video evidence documented, of a residual spirit walking up a staircase. And then they remove the staircase, and at the same pretty much time, like
Still
clockwork,
walking.
it still walks up the air where the staircase was, as if it's a recording.
The reason why, one of the reasons why that's being heavily disputed is that is not a ghost, that is not a spirit, that is not a demon, it's a stone taping. People generally prefer to think that, the majority of them, as a ghost. When they see it's a ghost, they don't want to think of it as an image. Well, in a way, it's a ghost. My definition, residual energy, kind of like that. So
That's like saying, I don't like the way that I don't like that meal because you call it this. I'd rather call it what my mammy called it.
Yeah.
And that is that. I mean, give me a break.
Splitting
It
hairs.
is what it is.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't fit your agenda, then it does. And it makes me heated. It makes me angry because I have on tape with my cell phone, not actual celluloid tape. I have on tape things moving that people are like, that didn't happen. I was fucking there.
Like,
Right.
I was in the room filming it. Like, and then there's things like that Randolph documentary when we went to the Randolph and I made that movie that's on my page. Shout out. I didn't discover half of the things that were on that thing until after, as I was editing it.
yeah.
And I would call Jackie and, holy crap.
Look what we missed.
This voice right here. Do you hear this? She goes, oh my God. I'm like, we didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Look at this orb thing. We didn't hear that. And it's like, so I'm not jumping at every little orb that happens or every voice that comes through, some EVP that happens on this thing, and you're getting excited at the moment. It keeps building it up. No, it is winging around you at all times. It's winging above your head at all times. Anyway, that really just makes me angry.
And I won the to jump way back just real quick, we talked about the science of going into a house and the use of pesticides can induce conditions that can make you feel like you're being haunted or you have a demon. A major culprit of that is low frequency, magnetic frequency, low, and electromagnetic frequency. Major contributor. So part of your investigation when you go in there is, do you have any spores of mold? Do you use a CO2 detector? To make sure there's no carbon monoxide in there? Are the fans on? Can you hear the hiss of the traffic through an open window? You shut that window, you shut off that fan, you shut all those things off. Is there a hum of wires? Is there excessive electronics in the place? Excessive electronics produces a low magnetic field, if you will. And you got the Wi-Fi going, you got the wires running, you got your senses are getting overloaded with this stuff. And it can also produce symptoms where a hallucination that you would swear, no, I hear it, I see it, I felt it touching me, and you're just being overloaded by that.
Dad, this was fun. We're going to come to a close.
Okay, is there a voice?
There's no voice.
Okay, because you're like, huh? Say it again. Say it again.
Yeah, there's no voice.
Damn it.
She caught me.
Is it going? No. There's no voice. Promise. Cross my heart, no to Yeah. What is your deal?
If there is a voice, I wanted to sound creepy.
Well, how?
So, I don't trust you.
Well, that's messed up. I'm your husband.
You're a
I would
bitch.
never lie to you like that.
I don't like him.
Is there anything you want to say to anybody? Or shout out to any demon friends of yours?
Stop. Cut.
Good night. Okay, we're back real quick. Little extra thing. Off camera. Man, as soon as the camera goes off, we just start talking. He brings out this list. I was talking to him off camera here, so I decided to pop it back on real quick, where I was like, man, my favorite tool is the energy. And, it's like, well, that's where I totally disagree with you on that. And then as I'm spouting,
Rebellious child.
that's right. And I'm like, how could my best tool in my toolbox be the one that you're like, I'll use a candle and a compass, right? Well, it hit me. The difference between what I do as just an investigator and what you do as an investigator is completely different. I'm wanting to do my investigations to identify what I'm working with in order to exploit, if you will, and capture the evidence so then people are aware of it, so therefore they won't get caught up in it and get hurt by the same situation. It's almost like I'm the pre-cop and you're the actual cop. I'm in the academy, or that's a bad analogy, but
You're on your FTO. I'm not trying to capture the evidence and trying to present the evidence and stuff. I'm trying to tackle the evidence, not to share it, to mitigate it and eradicate it. You don't know how strong the spirits are. Unfortunately, they can often be too strong. But as far as coming through, maybe the best they can do is blink that light. After you explain to them what you want them to do, maybe the best they can do is maybe jingle that key or knock that item off or roll that ball. And that's just the very best. That takes energy to do that. So you just eliminate everything else and then.
it's just, man, I like to charge if I'm able. And
Help him out.
We're constantly like, use this, Well, the Bible does talk about how you're not supposed to converse with people who claim to speak or interact with the dead. So
Yeah. I guess I'll just go to bed.
I'll see you later, man. Get out of my studio. Jack, you say goodnight this time. I already did it. Be awkward.
Where's your hand on the button?
Hands off the button.
Good night.
Night.